Mentioned the NBA has also taken a lot of the spotlight this week, and yesterday was no different. After weeks of internal turmoil, the Heat agreed to a massive multi-team trade that will send six-time All-Star Jimmy Butler to the Warriors. Golden State sending Andrew Wiggins, Kyle Anderson, and a first-round pick to Miami. Butler declined a player option. He signed a 2-year, $121 million extension. So he is headed to Golden State. Now, we all know that we call him Playoff Jimmy. Here's why. Since 2020, Jimmy Butler is tied with Luka Doncic, who, of course, was also traded recently, and Devin Booker for the most 40-point playoff games. Butler averages 18 points in the regular season. That number climbs to 21 points in the playoffs. There's a lot to get to there. The great Monica McNutt is here in New Orleans with us. And Wendy, who I think has slept 11 minutes in the last 6 days, is up with us early as well. Wendy, how did this? We've been waiting on this Butler thing. How did it finally happen?
Well, this can be qualified, I think, as a genuine what-if, because there was a trade sort of in place between Golden State, Phoenix, and Miami that would have returned Kevin Durant to Golden State. But Durant stepped up and made it known he did not want a reunion. And once that deal fell apart, then Golden State pivoted and tried to get Jimmy Butler. The key that got this done was their willingness to give him that 2-year, $111 million extension. Once that was in place, they had a deal with the Heat worked out, and the deal finally went through. But it is amazing to think that this was close to being Jimmy Butler in Phoenix, Kevin Durant in Golden State.
Well, listen, I mean, that would have been something else entirely. That's what we were looking forward to, or at least anticipating might happen. It didn't. So, Monica, I'm not great at math, so help me with an equation.
Yeah.
The Golden State Warriors plus Jimmy Butler equals what?
You got to subtract 3 players in that as well, right? They gave up a nice ransom in terms of getting Jimmy Butler, and you have to give up good to get good. But immediately, Greeny, I'm looking at this roster like, okay, now what, right? Jimmy Butler, while you can see where he will work with Steph and Draymond Green, there's still a lot to be filled out in terms of the team. I mean, you've got Kevon Looney, the kid Guy Santos has played well lately, the big kid Post as well. But when you look at this team, this is clearly about making something happen in the postseason. But there's a lot of pressure on this big three and not a lot of ancillary support that you trust now that they made the trade. And they got rid of Andrew Wiggins, who was the guy that was hugely important when they won that championship in Boston a couple years ago.
So very simply, does this make them a contender in your mind in a jam-packed Western Conference?
That's the important part to note. When you look at 5 through 11, it's a jam-packed Western Conference. You're talking about 3-4 games as a difference. I do think that because of the collective experience of those 3 guys, when you look at the postseason and playoff numbers of the 3 of them, they might have an opportunity, particularly if they can dictate the pace and they get matched up with a younger team that's at the top of the standings like Houston or Memphis.
Wendy, we know where Kevin Durant isn't going. Is he going anywhere, or will he go to sleep tonight still a member of the Phoenix Suns?
I believe he's going to be on the Suns. There was a possibility of a window that he may be able to go to the Miami Heat. Again, when that triumvirate deal broke down, there was a window for him to go to the Heat, and I do think there was some interest on both sides. But in the cursory discussions, from what I understand, Phoenix was looking for a massive return for Kevin Durant. The Heat weren't really into that game. They had gotten comfortable with acquiring Andrew Wiggins. That was a deal they had kind of agreed to the day before. They moved forward. I think Durant stays put in Phoenix. We'll see. It's a long way to 3 o'clock, but I think that's the way it's going to go.
Well, I mean, with the way this week has gone, 3 o'clock feels like an eternity from now, and then another deal like basketball. And the NBA is drunk, and that continued yesterday. The trade has finally happened. After weeks of internal turmoil, the Heat agreed to a massive multi-team trade that will send 6-time All-Star Jimmy Butler to the Warriors, with Golden State sending Andrew Wiggins, Kyle Anderson, and a first-round pick back to Miami. Butler declined an option, signed a 2-year, $121 million contract extension. So what exactly is Golden State getting? They're getting the man that we call Playoff Jimmy, and for good reason. Going back to 2020, Butler is tied with Luka Doncic, who was also just traded this week, you might have heard, and Devin Booker for the most 40-point playoff games. Butler averages 18 in the regular season. That climbs to 21 in the playoffs. So, Brian Windhorst, once again, operating on literally zero sleep over the course of this mad week, and Monica is down here with us in New Orleans. Wendy, we were all waiting for Kevin Durant possibly to get traded to the Warriors. Instead, it's Jimmy Butler. What happened?
Yeah, there's kind of 2 sides of this story, Greeny. A couple days ago, I think that there was a framework close to being in place between Miami, Golden State, and Phoenix that would have delivered Kevin Durant back to the Warriors. Jimmy Butler to the Suns and Andrew Wiggins to the Heat. But Durant, when he found out about it, put the brakes on it, said, I do not want to go. The Warriors could have still made the deal, but they respected his wishes. But they already had the part of the deal worked out to send assets to Miami for Jimmy Butler. So the big difference, what happened here yesterday, is they decided to open up contract negotiations once they had permission to do so. Once that contract was agreed on, the framework of the trade was already in place. And so with the Suns on the outside of it, they finished the deal. I'm not sure how close that ever was. I'm not sure whether Kevin Durant could have ended up going to Miami as part of it. I think there were some cursory discussions. But the Heat liked the package from Golden State. Golden State missed out on a star last trade deadline, last summer. They got it. They wanted to have something done. They got something done with Jimmy Butler.
I'm fascinated by it. Selfishly, just in being in the interesting business, I would have loved to have seen Kevin Durant go back to Golden State. But they don't get him. They get Jimmy Butler instead. So what are they now? You got Steph, you got Draymond, you got Jimmy Butler. They traded away Andrew Wiggins. What exactly is Golden State right now?
I think you've got 3 bona fide veterans that perform in the postseason, but other than that, they're sort of a gutted roster. They gave up a King's ransom in my mind. Well, King's ransom might be strong, but they gave up 3 guys. Andrew Wiggins, someone that was crucial to their victory versus the Boston Celtics the last time they won a championship. So I'm looking at how they're going to fill the rest of this roster out. While Kevon Looney is a guy that's been in that organization for a while, I mean, it's not really necessarily your starting 5. I mean, Guy Santos has played better. The kid Post has been playing well. But to me, this puts a lot of pressure on this 3, right? Not only do they need to be able to perform in the postseason, but they've got to move this team into a position that is beneficial in terms of the rankings by the end of the season. Now, 5 through 11 is tight, it's jumbled. Could they end up getting up to 6 or so, avoid the play-in? Yeah, but then you're still talking about a loaded roster versus some of these young teams that are deep. Now, Steph and Jimmy Butler, it's hard to bet against them in the postseason, but Father Time waits for no one.
Wendy, are they done? I mean, we were waiting on the Lakers to make a move. They did yesterday. Are the Warriors done here with getting Jimmy Butler?
I don't think so. They've got about $17 or $18 million left of expiring contracts. They still have some draft assets. Nikola Vucevic is a player that they've been very interested in, a big man from the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls are rebuilding. They need a guy who can shoot. I would not be surprised if a deal like that gets done today.
The Bulls have been rebuilding for a very long time. How about Durant? We thought he might get traded to Golden State. We heard a lot of different things. The deadline is this afternoon. Wendy, should we expect him to remain in Phoenix?
Based on my discussions, I don't think there's any traction on anything right now. I think the Suns are planning to keep him. One of the reasons why that would be, when they did have some discussions from people who called them about Durant, the asking price was enormous. And that's one of the things I think that's had the Heat not really go down that path and do their deal for Wiggins. Not because I think Wiggins is better, but just the cost of Durant. I think Durant stays there, but I should point something out. He has 1 year left on his contract. The Suns will have to deal with that this summer. Does he extend, or are we having more Kevin Durant trade discussions come June and July?
What do you think, McNutt?
Jay Will and I said last year when this conversation came up that I think KD should just lean into being a higher mercenary. The plan in Phoenix was for them to be a championship contender, and that has not come to any sort of realization yet. And so if he sees greener pastures, he still is a terrific shooter, still can give you some defense, still is going to move gravity of teams in terms of how they defend. It's not working in Phoenix, so I wouldn't be surprised, and I wouldn't be mad if he was on the move. Just lean in.
One last piece here. The Lakers, as I mentioned,
How's it going, everybody? Villa Sports Network here. Just want to thank you guys for your support on the channel. Thank you guys for watching the video. Hope you all enjoyed it. Also want to kindly remind you to don't forget to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment on the video if you like as well. But regardless of the fact, thank you again for your support, and hope to see you on the next video.